All right, we got another sound check in white balance for all you folks that would like to hear this and see this. Check 1, 2. If anybody has any issues, go see me back at the board when I'm done. Check 1, 2, test. I am talking not very loud into the mic, so this should be pretty, even if he's talking lightly, you'd hear it just like this. So this should be nice and clear. Everybody happy? Thumbs. Cool. All right. I'm going to scoot.
we're gonna move. I don't think I need to do anything.
Oh, so we're okay straight across.
I think we should get, there's sort of like a hole. Can you get two guys come like in the middle? Or do you mind? Just want to fill the middle as best we can. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to give out to whoever wants. You don't want to block anyone's face.
Little bit, yes.
Anyone else need I think we're good. Just try not to knock the butt over. I know, giving a lot of try to be good.
Yes, it's very important.
One person doing everything, one person's doing everything. So a different station. No, I mean, what I mean is, we had a table in one station, they hooked you up, and then they also put you in the corner.
Yes, yes.
Most places like Russia, for some reason, the people who are fastest.
In the room, they only took 10 minutes.
Right.
Because the wait for 3.5 hours.
It's entirely a function of the site volume and the number of volunteers. They're two very like a pineapple. Crown on your head. Oh, he's not one. He's gonna have a little tight pipe in his.
I was just thinking the same thing. Trees extend away. Thank you.
And everyone take one step, like forward, just a little bit forward. Perfect. Just off the wall. Yeah. Perfect.
Now I'm gonna fall over.
Vice President Gates, because after he looked at MRI, surgery. Oh, yeah, Congress is expected to be here.
Yeah.
I asked for his he's actually been on his prescription at first. I'm also just on the surgery of the job. And so, starting.
And he's from Los Angeles, like you. Give it a chance. Get it, please.
Well, the first one went very well. He says really fast. He's recovered. He said that first surgery I did.
Stuff's going on.
Able to stay in this one?
Yes, but I iced.
Here, come here. Let me take off the sweater. Okay, now I could do it. I could do it.
You got it? You want me to take off your sweater? Okay. I'll probably schedule it in May. I might take them out. We're gonna have to walk on through. You ready?
No.
We're gonna have to. You gotta stand up.
Oh, I'm tired.
I don't wanna
My
hear.
neck.
Do I ever complain when we go to the park? No. Do I complain if the children sleep in? No. I complain when watching the I complain watching Sonic? No.
Yes.
No, I didn't. I had headphones on.
Yes.
No. Sure. Yeah.
Spending a little extra time at breakfast, is he?
Sure, so. I know this is the popcorn you can't like. You should go. It would be fun if it was. You know what?
they've been taking pictures of it. So they wanted to just a table where you put the ballot box table. Right, of course.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm a Las Vegas native. I'm a public school teacher of 16 years. I'm an everyday and pretty average American. But most importantly, I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children. I have twins, a boy and a girl. My son is now 13, and my daughter will forever be 4. You see, my daughter Dayla was exactly 4 years, 2 months, and 3 days old on March 6, 2011. This was the last time I saw Dayla laugh, smile, or giggle. She was a vivacious little girl who was going to make a mark in this world. That day, I remember sitting with her on the couch, brushing her curly, light brunette hair, braiding it back so that it wouldn't be in her face for the day. But later that day, our lives would be forever changed when my daughter was shot by a stray bullet. The braids I had so happily made in my daughter's hair just that morning would be handed to me by a nurse, placed in a plastic bag shaved from her head. Her curls would be replaced by wires. My daughter would lay in a hospital bed after brain surgery, hooked up to life support machines, while we waited to see if she could possibly pull through this, if there was any sign. 2 days after she was shot, on March 8th, 2011, we made the decision to turn off life support machines. They let me hold her one last time before taking her back from me. No parent should have to endure this pain. It was when I learned that my daughter would not be coming home, and I would never know who was responsible for her death, that I would do whatever it takes to help prevent this tragedy from happening to another family, to another innocent child. We've seen a movie theater shooting in Colorado, a deadly shooting at a church in South Carolina, the Virginia Beach shooting in a place of work, countless school shootings across this country, and the largest and deadliest mass shooting right here in my hometown, Las Vegas. But there is a daily toll of gun violence in this country, too. 100 Americans a day are shot and killed, and hundreds more are injured. They are not making national headlines, just like Dayla. This is not just a local problem. This has become a national epidemic, a crisis, and it requires a national solution. Since losing Dayla, people always ask me what they can do. You know what you can do? You can vote. Vote for a candidate that has a gun safety policy. Vote not just for me, but for Dayla and everyone else who no longer can. Vote so that you will never know this pain. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce to you Congressman Horsford.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your courage and for reminding us what's at stake. I am not here as a congressman. I'm here as the son who lost my father to gun violence when I was 19 years old, right here in Las Vegas, a block away from where I grew up and where I would later work as the head of the Culinary Academy. My father was shot and killed while I was a freshman in college at the University of Nevada, Reno. And on the way to the hospital in an ambulance, he passed. And so the next time I had the opportunity to see my father was at his funeral. He would never have the opportunity to see me finish school, to start my own family, or to serve my community now as a member of Congress. I don't want any other family to feel the pain of losing a loved one to senseless gun violence. And I am doing everything I can as a member of Congress to do our job to pass gun safety legislation that will keep our families safe. But I'm also supporting someone for president who I know understands the true sacrifice and the loss that so many families have felt, because he has experienced that same loss himself. He's also someone who last night at the debate was the only person who brought up that tragic shooting on 1 October, the biggest mass shooting in our nation's history. He's also the only one that has taken on the NRA and won. And that is why we need him as President of the United States. I'm proud that he's here in Nevada talking to voters about the issues that matter most. We know Joe, but more importantly, Joe Biden knows us. He knows our pain, he knows our hopes and our ambitions. And it gives me a great honor to introduce Vice President Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? It's a tough day for you all. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out this beautiful Las Vegas morning. The sun's shining. People are going to work. They're going to school. Voters in Nevada are gearing up to vote in the caucus. But by the end of the day, the end of this day, approximately 100 more people across the United States will be dead because of being shot with a gun. Because of crime, because of an accident, because of a self-inflicted wound, or a stray bullet, or intimate partner violence, or indiscriminate mass shootings because of guns. Another normal day in America. But for Congressman Horsford, who was just 19 years old, as he just pointed out, lost his father to a gun, and for all the family members who are with me today, standing behind me and next to me, for all the people across the country, normal has become living a nightmare. On October 1, 2017, it was a normal day in Las Vegas until one man in possession of a small arsenal of assault weapons, many modified with bump stocks, increasing the speed with which he could fire the weapons, and 100 rounds of ammunition with each of those assault weapons, was able to, in just 10 minutes, take out 58 innocent lives and hundreds more were wounded. The largest mass shooting in American history. And normal to me and to all the people behind me is not acceptable. You know, moms like Stephanie, they do not accept a world where her bright, beautiful 4-year-old daughter, Dayla, gets cut down by a stray bullet in front of her twin brother, and nothing changes. And I want to say to all of you here today, It takes enormous courage to be here. It takes enormous courage because every single time, I know, every single time you show up at something like this or you speak to this issue, you relive as if the moment happened this moment. But you're giving people courage around the country. I don't accept that we can't stand up and say no more. To the voices who offer those empty words of sympathy, and our prayers go out to you, and then oppose a change in any way that would cure this god-awful problem. I've beaten the National Rifle Association nationally twice, passed meaningful gun legislation at a federal level, and I'll do it again. But it won't just be because I'll do it. It's because moms against gun violence are now mobilized. Young victims, school children across the country are mobilized, pricking the conscience of everybody out there who says, my thoughts and prayers are with you. You know, I think that I think the country's ready. You know, and I'm incredibly proud of having worked so hard when I was in the United States Senate of passing the Brady bill with background checks. But people don't realize that kept a weapon out of the hands of 3 million people. 3 million people. 3 million out of the hands of dangerous people. Now we need to follow the leadership of the Nevada legislature and Governor Sisolak. They've shown by instituting universal background checks here in Nevada. We're requiring background checks for every single gun sale. Just common sense. It's supported by 90% of the American people share that view. We have to get it done nationally. It just takes a little bit of backbone to stand up to the thugs. Working with Dianne Feinstein, I was able to get assault weapons with high-capacity magazines and high-capacity magazines declared to be illegal, banned. We got them banned for 10 years. It had to be reauthorized. And the Bush administration did not support that when we lost the Congress. We passed it in spite of the NRA, because no one needs an AR-15, something designed for no other purpose, none, other than to kill human beings. There's no other rationale for its existence, and to kill them as quickly and as brutally as possible. Every day that we do nothing about this epidemic of assaults and assault weapons, high-capacity magazines in our streets, is an insult. And the innumerable lives across this nation that have been forever shattered by this violence. As president, I promise you, I will get these weapons of war off the street again and out of our communities. You know, it's so long past time that we correct one of the most egregious special interest giveaways the United States Congress has ever engaged in. The civil liability protections granted to gun manufacturers against being sued by the victims of gun violence. Only major industry. And by the way, we talk about people killed in war. Do you all realize, counting the Vietnam War all the way through to this day, 3 times as many people have been killed in the United States of America as every single solitary warrior killed in Vietnam to this moment. 3 times, 150,000 people murdered just since 2005. 150,000 people murdered. since 2005. We don't grant that kind of immunity to anybody else. Imagine if I stood up here and said today, I voted to give immunity to the tobacco companies. I voted to give immunity, if I did, to say I'm going to vote to give immunity to drug manufacturers who poured 9 billion opioids out on the market. Imagine if I stood here and said to y'all that I think that, or I voted for giving immunity to oil companies for the pollution and damage they do to groundwater supplies, to the air, etc. Folks, it's just flat out immoral. It's just flat out immoral. You know, and too many Republicans and some Democrats, like Bernie Sanders, voted 5 times against the Brady bill that I was passing. 5 times against background checks and waiting periods. Notwithstanding the fact of the millions of people who were denied having access to a weapon of destruction because they didn't qualify. They weren't responsible enough to own one. You know, any one of you and the people behind me should be able to walk into a court of law and demand that gun manufacturers, with their enormous profits, be held accountable for the carnage that they're responsible for inflicting on our society. And I promise you, if I'm your next president, they're going to be held accountable because I am coming after them. 150,000 dead on our streets. That's not counting suicides. 150,000 dead on our streets because of the glamorization of AR-15s, assault weapons. What is the rationale encouraging people to buy a magazine that has 100 rounds in it, 100 bullets in it? In fact, my first day of office, I'm going to send a bill to the Congress repealing the liability protection for gun manufacturers, closing the background check loopholes and the waiting period, and it'll let too many people slip through the cracks. And I stand with all the people here today who care about saving their children, care about not having an entire generation of young people scarred because they're afraid of being shot at school. What do we do when a veteran comes home and he or she has been the victim of the victim? He or she has been injured or shot in a war. We try to give them as much mental health as they can, much support as they can, dealing with the nightmare of what happened. What in God's name do you think is happening to our children? The impact on their psyche, on their very stability. What do you think? What in God's name are we doing? Look, I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. We put protections in that act saying that an abuser has a stay-away order and or has been convicted of abuse can't own a weapon because that's the weapon of choice to kill their significant other. And each time it has to be reauthorized, I've fought like hell to get more protection for the abused, saying that those who have an order against them because they have abused could not own a weapon. There's a bill sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk right now as I speak, being held up by the NRA and the president, who's owned by the NRA, that says if a boyfriend abuses you, beats you up, has a stay order, whatever it is, they're exempt from being told they can't own a weapon. What in God's name are we doing? What is the matter with us? Look, you know, we care a lot about the young boys and girls getting home safely after school today in their neighborhoods. We also know, Jill and I know, in a different context, the pain of losing someone by indiscriminate chance. Terrible car crash took the lives of my first wife and my baby daughter. Tragedy many people across this country have been through. But no one thought we couldn't do things to make cars safer. No one said, by the way, don't tell the automobile industry that they not only have to have seat belts, but they have to make sure there's airbags. They have to take other precautions. Dealing with the carnage on the highway. So we passed a seatbelt law. We required airbags. We continue to make cars safer. Require a license to drive, and for cars to be registered and insured. Jill and I know the loss when cancer took our son's life. But no one said to Jill or me that we shouldn't be passing laws that deal with the causes of the toxins that cause cancer. No one said to Jill or me that we should not be spending the time, effort, and money to make sure that other people don't die of brain cancer. No one has said that it doesn't make sense for us to try to save millions of Americans' lives who are dying of cancer. Why in God's name can we say that we can't do anything about 150,000 people being shot dead in the United States of America, murdered because of gun violence? Look, why are guns different? Because of cowardice. Because of cowards. Cowards who are afraid to take on these special interests because they're so damn powerful. Our politicians and elected leaders up to now have just been too afraid. The NRA and the gun manufacturers stand up to them, but they're afraid to stand up to the gun manufacturers and do what they know. As they say, what they know in their heart, they know is the right thing to do. It's not violating anybody's Second Amendment rights. If you heard me say before, if you're hunting geese, you can only have 3 shells in your shotgun. We protect geese better than we do people. But not me. I've looked in the eyes of too many parents, and I mean literally scores of them, who've lost their children to gun violence. I've looked in the eyes of brave young people who survived school shootings. And I made each of them a promise. I made myself a promise. I promised them, and I promise all of you, I will make this promise today. Those families hurting across the country, I will never, 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 never give up this fight. We're not going to, it won't stop until we beat the NRA. And it will not stop until we ban killer assault weapons, until we hold gun manufacturers liable. That is my promise to the American people. Whether I'm your president or I'm a citizen fighting for it, I promise you, I will not rest until we beat these guys, because it is immoral what's happening. Thank you for listening. I'm going to spend some time with these folks. Thank you.
Mr. Biden, how
Talk
is
to you
it
later.
fair to connect these mass shootings